You ready to do this thing?
Let's get into it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sweaty Casuals, brought to you by the Snowflake Sanctuary Discord server. This is the podcast where we usually talk about the games we love to play, from the state of rank systems to our thoughts on the latest trends and everything in between. My name is Zach, and along with my co-host Nox, we will be your guide as we traverse Elo Hell. Small reminder, we do swear, so viewer discretion is advised. Today we're joined by Bandito, by Drazil, and by Paradox, and we're going to go into the great 5v6 debate that's been going on in the Overwatch community. Our icebreaker for today: who's your favorite tank to play?
That implies that I play tank.
I know you're ranked, so that's something.
Higher than my DPS.
Ryan, I don't have to aim.
Oh. Yeah, I was about to say, let's get all the wrong answers out of the way. Go ahead.
Ryan, I don't have to aim. Easy. I don't like aiming.
Fire Strike, go burr.
Fire Strike, go burr.
Drazil, how about you?
The answer is none, but if I have to pick, D.Va.
Nerf this.
Winky face.
Oh my. Not Winston. No monkey.
There's too much trauma. I need a therapist to unpack that.
I usually cycle between Zarya, Ram, and D.Va because they counterwatched. I can usually rely on those three to get most things done. Usually Orisa would be in that rotation, but she has been removed from the game, essentially. So unless they're playing Hog, then she can survive.
Yeah. What about you, Bandito?
So I was incorrect earlier. I'm going to have to agree with Paradox. It's Ryan. Is objectively the right answer, because you just go at the enemy until they can't attack you anymore, and you win the game. That's it. No more steps needed.
When's the last time you played Overwatch? Been a while.
It's been a brief hiatus.
I wasn't even referring to that, but if you think Ryan can just walk through teams at this point, I don't know what game you've been playing.
If you get pocketed enough, anything's possible.
My answer would also be Ryan, but given that Ryan's been in such a rough state since Overwatch has started, I'd probably go D.Va.
They don't like Ryan.
It's nice to be in 4 places at once. Anyway, let's get into it. So there's been a big debate going on that tank has felt awful to play since Overwatch 2 basically came out. And there's been awful metas, there's been awful things going on with it. And nobody seems to really know what's going on. We all feel like Blizzard doesn't know what's going on. And a lot of people have said, let's go back to 6v6, because tank had its own issues there, but the game felt better. And some of that has changed, given what they've done with the DPS passive. But let's just start by kind of figuring out where people kind of stand. Nox, what are your thoughts on this, if you had to pick one?
I hold the opinion that people that want 6v6 back are nostalgic for a time that Overwatch was bad, but is in the past. So they look at it with rose-tinted glasses. I think there's problems with the game no matter what. I've enjoyed the 5v5. I think there's a little bit more dynamics to it. I think the way that it's moved more towards a FPS team-based, more offensive game, it feels like, faster paced. I've enjoyed the 5v5 rather than the 6v6. Throwing it to Bandito. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Support main.
I was a support main coming from console into Overwatch 1, and then when I went to mouse and keyboard on PC, I centered in a little bit more on DPS, but I am still consider myself a support main.
I think I fall in a similar category. It's always been, for me, 6v6 was fun and all, but you get a dangerous tank combination, and it doesn't matter what you do. The game's over. You're done. you can't play, you can't do anything, and it was always problematic. That's why they switched off of it. I see no real reason to go back. I think we got what we got. Deal with it.
Drazil?
There's that word. I don't think I'm going to say anything new that people haven't heard before, but I feel like 6v6 was, personally, I feel like 6v6 was a little bit better balanced. The tanks could cover for each other. It was a little bit slower paced. And as someone on the other end of the youth curve, I appreciate the slow paced nature of 6v6. With 5v5, Bandito kind of touched on it from the 6v6 side, but from the 5v5 side, if you've got the weaker of the two tanks between the two teams, that's also game over. And that's very frustrating as a team because there's tends to not be too much that you can do about it. Sure, you can swap and you can counter and you can try to support them as best you can and not tilt yourself or not tilt your other teammates or whatever it is that you got to do to keep the game going, but it can still sometimes be a death sentence.
Sorry, just to clarify, Bandito, you're a tank main?
Correct.
Drazil, you're a support main? Okay. Paradox, you come from a different side of this.
Yeah, I mean, looking at like a logistical side from the business perspective, 5v5 is smart. I've said that multiple times. I said that on another episode of the podcast too, where if I'm going to run a LAN, if we're looking at the Saudi World Cup and everything, and I have to have an extra setup on stage just for Overwatch, even though I'm running League of Legends and Apex and some of these other games, it just seems really silly. I'm going to have empty computers on stage. You know, I'm not going to spend the time like removing a computer from each one of those sides if I'm going from like Overwatch to League of Legends. Even then, I was at a big LAN this past weekend, and they were trying to run Valorant and Overwatch. So again, you would just have these empty PCs if it was 6v6, whereas now, you know, it goes more in line with more of the common games. Counter-Strike, Valorant, and Overwatch are all now 5v5. If I want to run an FPS LAN, I can do that, right? I think the 5v5 makes just a lot of sense from a business perspective, but from a player-based perspective and from a game perspective, I think that 6v6 was probably better, just because of the design of Overwatch, which we can talk about.
For my part, I'm on the 6v6 train. I think as a lot of the things that Drazil touched on, which is just, you know, right now if a tank gets hard countered, there's not a lot you can do. And I'm a tank main, so like, you know, maybe that's just a skill issue on my part. But
Took the words right out of my mouth.
But
Oh my
on the flip
God.
side of that, you know, it's also like, okay, well, what tank actually counters Zarya? It doesn't. The only thing that counters Zarya is just good teamwork. So it's like, cool, I can't play D.Va this match because she just straight up walks through D.Va. And that is a big issue that I think has come across has been, you know, one of the things that Overwatch has that makes it special is the fact that you can swap mid-match. Can anybody think of another game where you can swap heroes or legends mid-match?
Not necessarily like heroes or legends, but like in Counter-Strike, you're choosing your guns. You know what I mean? So you do have like different roles with different guns. You can op in one map, you know? That's like, but it's still not a fundamental difference.
I think Valorant can do the same thing with buying guns.
Exactly. But like the heroes in Valorant, or the agents, sorry, in Valorant, you can't change that. If you start with Viper, you stick with Viper, right? So your abilities are the same, but like, you know, you can purchase the different guns and you can take a bit of a different role. Like in Valorant, it's like the Vandal gun is the one that's much more of like a automatic versus, and I'm just gonna sound wrong, but yeah, then you have like the ops in Counter-Strike, which is your sniper, right? So you can buy different guns for different roles, but no, there's no other game that you can really change mid-game.
And I think that's something that has kept Overwatch special in a lot of ways. But on the flip side, it has definitely the fact that we all call it Counterwatch at some point. And
It's
that
rock,
term
paper,
has just
scissors.
become, yeah. And
Can you
it's just-
imagine if you couldn't change your character though?
it would be awful.
Fucking hell.
The game would immediately die
Yeah.
because it would be whoever picks the right tank just wins.
If we think metas are extremely followed now, you'd just be mirror matching every single time. The same 5 characters would get played.
One of the things that I came across that was really interesting to think about was when we look back at Overwatch 1 and 6v6, one of the things that DPS players in particular tend to bring up is the double shield meta. So that was running Orisa with Sigma, and you could just rotate your shields. If you really needed it, you could use Sigma's Grasp, but basically you could negate 90% of damage that was going to come at your team if you held by lines.
It was a bitch.
It was terrible.
It was a rough meta. It was a really rough meta. It was fun to play sometimes as a tank person, but
Beyond that, no.
What? Fun? Who?
I like.
You think it's fun putting out a shield and just going, haha, you can't hit me?
No,
I
I
mean-
like.
And
you
they've
win.
got 2 shields. You're just shooting shields for 20 minutes.
Yeah, but if you won, it didn't matter.
You're playing Junkrat. You're playing Hanzo. You're playing anything with projectile shield break. And just
That's
hoping
it.
to God that you can break their shields faster than they can break yours.
One of the things that's been brought up though is that meta can't exist anymore. Orisa's been reworked. And there was a reason why Rein Sigma was never a good meta.
Better than Rhaenyra.
But the truth of the matter was that Rein's shield, once it breaks, he has to stand there. It's not like Sig where you put it up and just, bye guys, I got other things to do.
Yeah.
Rein has to physically stand there, and once it breaks, he's got a long enough time that you can actually do something about it. I think the other meta we probably need to at least touch on would be goats.
Yeah, but Roll Q took that away.
Roll Q did take that away, but it does point to the fact that tanks in Overwatch 1 were problematic, and that DPS didn't have a really impactful role. And I think the new role passive, I think it's overtuned right now. I think most people can agree that 20% is too much. But on the flip side of that, it does give DPS a meaningful impact on the game, and that shouldn't be taken away.
Another big thing to remember from 6v6 that was a big issue they were trying to solve going into 5v5 was the oppressiveness of support alts. If you're running Rein's R and Rein's just sucking damage, I'll have a nano in 45 seconds.
Yeah.
I'll have a nano before first fight is even close to being done.
Mhm.
You have BAP window, you have nano, you have, if Kiriko existed in Overwatch 1, can you imagine how often you'd have Kitsune? Like it without the, you start to go into those conversations that if you just added the tank back now, let's say you even tune tank numbers so that they're not meant to play on their own. Say they lose a little bit of health, they lose a little bit of damage.
They'd have to.
They can't exist together right now. That's just, if anyone's saying that, they're crazy. They're tuned for one right now. They're not tuned to have a partner.
Sure.
But let's say they tune them back down a little bit and you keep everything else the same. You would need the DPS passive. It would be required. Otherwise, the support alts are going to continue to run the game. And now we're still going back to Overwatch 1 problems. That's why I like the 5v5, because it seems like they've taken steps to fix a lot of the biggest fundamental problems the game was facing at the time. We just still haven't found the solution. Because tanks haven't been in a healthy spot for as long as I can remember. Tank has continuously been a debated and balanced problem. Well, balanced. The devs abandoned the game for 2 years, so balance didn't happen. But they've been an issue for as long as I can in recent history of this game.
It sounds like, I mean, the game just has deeper fundamental issues. Just if you're getting your ultimates that fast and everything, I'm looking in and I'm like trying to even think of solutions. And, League of Legends, your ultimate is a timed cooldown. So maybe you can only Reinhardt ult every 2 minutes, every 3 minutes, right? Or Kiriko ult every 3 minutes. And then you actually balance it based on time rather than basing it on damage. Or in Valorant, you have to go around, collect the orbs, you have the different rounds. Yeah, you can't necessarily do rounds in Overwatch, but maybe you can actually create secondary checkpoints that can actually be fought around. Because the current larger issue with 5v5 is the diversity of gameplay. You guys have already mentioned it. There was a double shield meta. There was a goats meta. There was like Monkey Diva meta for a really long time, Brawl meta. There are the ability to have all these different, Zarya Rein, right? All these different metas because of the two tanks. You could have one tank that is sitting in and you can force front to back, and one other tank can go fuck off in the corner, right? And they can just kind of be shooting and flanking and doing whatever. Now, because you're one tank, you're forced to have a deathmatch where you can only fight front to back. You're targeting the tank until if it's Ryan, his shield's down and you're blowing him up, or Sigma, the same thing. Or if it's Orisa, you're just trying to focus her down, and then you just run through the opposing team, and then you wait for all 5 of them to respawn and you do it again, right? So
Fair.
the diversity of team compositions has changed because you've lost that tank, and there hasn't been a good solution from a balance perspective to change that.
Now, it is to note that we're recording this before the mid-season patch for Season 10, so there are a bunch of tank changes on the way. They're going to be adding a 25% reduction on headshots for tanks. They're reverting armor back to an older state, and they're increasing the knockback resistance. And I think a lot of those changes will help, particularly some of the headshot changes. Flats actually did a really good. I was working with somebody who did a graph and everything, and showing what the differences were going to be. And there were some heroes where there was minimal effect, or we're actually getting slightly more damage out of it. But a lot of heroes were like, oh, okay, these heroes are now going to be much less effective against tanks.
I don't know if my tank players in the chat will like this opinion. We'll see. One thing that I've always thought about tanks, especially since the 5v5, I think it's been incredibly increased, is in terms of when you look at the 3 roles with support, damage, and tank, tank shouldn't be able to one-shot me. I'm thinking of Hog, obviously. We all know my thoughts on that character. Delete him. But I still don't like that. So Doomfist, back in Overwatch 1 when he was a DPS hero, was an assassin. You jump in, you get a kill, you get out. You heal up, you get your cooldowns back, and you go down and you go do it again. Incredibly infuriating. Glad he's not a DPS hero anymore. I still feel like in 5v5, with him as a tank, he's still an assassin. He still comes in, but now he can get 3 people at once with his punch. Before Orisa got absolutely demolished. You roll up to somebody, you headshot them a couple times, spear them into a wall, and keep it going. They're dead. 2 under 250 HP heroes were absolutely useless. Tanks, I think, should not be able to output that much damage. I think tanks should fall into... I think supports are becoming overtuned with DPS as well. But I feel like tanks should be have more utility rather than more attack and damage. I think that's a big fundamental issue that we've rolled into, and I've talked about it on other podcasts, is that a lot of these support heroes and tank heroes are becoming DPS heroes. And I think that's why we can't balance the game. It's because we're not following the roles.
I think the bigger issue, at least in my thoughts and views, is that tank needs to have that killing potential, but the goal of it should never be what Doom has right now. There's always been tanks who are highly mobile, and yet they have very, very limited resources in some other way. Look at Winston. Winston's damage output is terrible on a single target. And that's why he's balanced. That has always been how he's been balanced. Meanwhile, Reinhardt has always been able to hit, or was always able to hit, a 4-shot, I think, on squishies.
Hypothetically.
3 shot.
It's 3.
I think you could get it to 3.
Pretty
Now
sure most heroes, when they were 200 HP heroes, it was 75 swing. So you do 75, 150, and the third would finish it.
Point being, though, that was good because it meant that Rein could do what a tank's supposed to do. Rein goes in, he says, "This is my spot. No one's going to take my spot. If you want to come take my spot, I'm going to make it a problem." And they gave him Fire Strike so that he had some range so that if somebody just wants to try and walk away, you can still do something.
Right.
I think the fundamental design philosophy on tanks has changed a lot, and a lot of it's where a lot of these issues have arisen. It's actually, I would say it started with Orisa, with original Orisa. Hey, we're going to have a ranged tank. We're going to have a tank who can literally shoot people across the map. And do it constantly. And I think we're seeing more of that now that we have Ramatra, Mauga. These weapons with very high rates of fire and very little fall off. I don't think Ramatra has fall off.
Does not.
No.
And I really enjoyed Mauga. I think Mauga, if you turn down his damage just a little bit, I think he does what a tank should do. I think he enforces space. He is able to support his teammates. I know he's his heal. He can create space with his not dash, but like charge, like Rein has. But he doesn't feel overbearing. He just feels like he can take damage forever, which is what I think a tank should be designed to be able to tank that damage.
I could see it. It'd be intimidating to have a Rein in that quality.
It's an interesting design philosophy because if you want all the tanks to do the same thing, then the only thing that makes them unique is their abilities. When we had off tank and main tank, that was a big piece of this game, that each one of those characters felt unique because they played in a very unique way. And now we're kind of stuck in a balance cycle where it's kind of like, okay, are the old off tanks good? Or the tanks that can do damage good again? Or are the tanks good again? Right? And then you end up having, Maui on release where he's just dealing a shit ton of damage just out of nowhere, right? And he's just absolutely ruining games until he gets fine-tuned into one of those two categories, either damage or being able to infinitely tank. Or he's going to be good at both or bad at both. So, and yes, I'm still calling him Maui. It's I saw you smile. Yeah, no, he's still Maui in my heart. So,
no, my opinion has not changed, believe it or not. Regardless of how many times Overwatch wants to tell me, hey, you got to keep playing. Hey, we don't like you anymore. Stop playing. Hey, keep playing. Much like the well-known Mr. O'Hare, I want it to fucking die. It's done. It ran its course. It did so good. It won Game of the Year, believe it or not. That happened a few years ago.
7 years ago, I think.
A few years. Yep. Mm-hmm.
We don't even need Bandito to actually come on the podcast anymore. We can just clip that, and every time there's a silence, just insert him saying the game should die.
It should die, and then move on, and we'd be good. I stand by it.
I do think one of the other things, though, that made the game special was the fact that it wasn't just an FPS, it was a MOBA. It had this element where your positioning was something that mattered. It mattered a lot. And it still does. It's not to downplay that it is, but now it's if somebody playing a hero has better mechanical aim, that has a bigger impact on a fight than just, hey, my team is playing well together. one of the things I know we've discussed in previous episodes was cheaters. And having 2 tanks to oppress cheaters was incredibly handy. You had one hero who could just, actually play the game, and you had one hero whose job it was to just, I'm going to go bully this person. It's a lot harder to do that now.
Well, now if you say shit, you're gone. So
I would argue that cheating has gone way down in Overwatch too. I think that's one of the big
It compares.
W's from
That has
their
been a big W.
change.
or at least to the point where I noticed a significant difference playing Overwatch.
Well, when the devs are actually watching the game, it's crazy.
Crazy.
Overwatch
When you abandon
1,
it for 2
like,
years, it's the Old West.
one every 5th game, I could find another cheater. It was awful.
Oh, it used to be awful.
It was fucking awful.
And there was
But at least
nobody
Overwatch
working
2
there, so they're a
crap.
small indie company. They weren't checking reports.
I should have known, okay? I
know.
didn't realize they were a small indie company until
I
much
know.
later.
I know it's hard.
I had this idea in my head that it was a big corporation founded by multiple backers willing to give them as much money as they need to make the game playable. If only.
Kind
That's
of
theory.
not changing the subject, but changing focus. Draz is someone who else is a support main. How have you felt support has been like in state since Overwatch 2 compared to how Overwatch 1? I know you talked about pacing.
I enjoy how the characters feel like they play. For the most part, there are exceptions. We're not going to talk about Sombra. Actually, I am going to talk about Sombra a little bit.
Please talk
Actually,
about Sombra.
We should talk about Sombra. Sombra's actually a really good problem to talk about.
Yeah, with it only being 1 tank and 2 DPS who should be upfront with the tank helping take care of whatever the problem is, it feels much harder to get peel and support. So if you're, as a support, if you have dive DPS on the other team who are competent, know what they're doing, and can get to the back line, because sometimes that's sometimes that's not the case. If they're capable and are doing their job, it can be incredibly oppressive, and it doesn't matter what you switch to. Whoever switches to Moira first is the lucky one, and everyone else is SOL. So it can kind of feel, I guess, counterwatchy again in that regard. Especially with Sombra. Tracer not as much. It can be, but Sombra is definitely the worst culprit.
I know, as someone who's played a lot of fucking Ana in her life, I have never had to play closer to a fight as I do right now.
Yeah.
I used to be able to post up cross map and hit everyone and be super effective and not really worry about anyone touching me. I have to play so close to the team now, which is not Ana's advantageous play style, to make sure that if a Sombra pops up, if a Genji dives me, if a Tracer dive has been oppressive, I believe, for certain support characters, but I think that's why dive has been good right now, in my opinion. At least dive DPS heroes. You see more Genji and Tracer than you ever have, in my opinion.
Definitely since more than the last few seasons, for sure.
Right. I can even know, talking about how support feels right now, support feels more powerful than ever. ERE is in a bad state and still kind of broken at times.
Yep.
There's been games where I'm doing the most healing in the lobby and I have the exact same number in DPS, in damage. It's, maybe I'm just good at the game. I don't know. But yeah, Sombra, fucking problem. She's so fun to play right now, though, so I don't blame people. She's so fun right now because you are oppressive. It's like playing Hog.
I think this is a good one to touch base on. So let's touch base on those two specifically, Sombra and Hog.
Yeah.
Hog has never been a good tank. He's a good DPS. He's the best DPS
really
in the game.
good DPS.
Because realistically,
he started the problem,
you land one ability, that's it. You can just delete somebody off the game. And then on the flip side, you also have Sombra right now, who, when you had 2 tanks, this was a balancing act. You had one tank who got hacked, and you have another tank who's going to try and cover. Now you have one tank who gets hacked, and they're a sitting duck.
There are two primary Sombra playstyles currently. One, they're playing characters that go off on their own or sit in the back, and you go hack those people and you 1v1 them. That's like an Ana. Every once in a while, when a soldier gets ballsy, it's the #1 Widow counter right now, I would argue.
Definitely.
It's insane playing Widow. If they go on Sombra and you're playing Widow, your game's over. You switch. You just can't play the game anymore. Or there's the other play style of you sit with your team and you sit in the corner until the tank rounds out and comes to the choke and you go beep 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 beep. Can't play the game, and then you go and viz and you sit there again and you wait for the tank to round the corner and you go beep 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 beep. Can't play the game. Both are incredibly effective, which is you can't lose as long as your Sombra has a brain cell and some mechanical skill. She runs the lobby.
And it's a problem. It's a real problem. And I think this is one of the things that why 6v6 keeps getting brought up.
Yeah.
And I still think y'all are crazy. I can sit here and acknowledge the problems. I just think there's bigger issues.
Counter argument.
Don't say it.
I initially picked up Sombra because I enjoyed the feeling of beating the shit out of my esports team with a character they couldn't go against. However, over time, they got really good at going against Sombra. So inadvertently, I've trained them to be the ultimate Sombra crushing machine. So I think it comes down to skill. People just suck at countering Sombra. If you have a really good enemy team, the Sombra can't do anything. She doesn't get the time to. She doesn't get the chance to. There's almost no opportunity. You're forced to sit in the middle of the group or change characters.
I would say yes, it's not skill though. It's cooperation.
Tomato.
It's different when you're in when you're solo queuing.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Because you're not betting on, hey, I'm better than them. You're betting on my team is better than them.
No, because exactly. If I'm playing Ana and there's a Sombra on the other team, technically with my kit, I could counter her, right? I've got a sleep dart, I've got a defensive ability, and then I've also got an offensive/defensive ability with my nade. If I play it well, which I have to if I'm going to survive, she needs to hack me. I need to dodge virus, which is luck, if you do.
At that point.
I then need my abilities to come back online. I need to sleep her. Hopefully I don't have the virus, because then I'm not taking damage. I need to sleep her. I need to walk next to her, hit myself and her with a nade, and shoot her at the same time, and maybe I'll kill her before she TPs out. And that's if everything goes really well. And sure, there's things that counter it better with support heroes. You play BAP. You wait for your stuff to come back online, but if you don't have cooldowns, you're fucked.
Break needs to get fucking patched.
What?
Why does virus still go through shield?
I should have been abusing that all this time. I didn't know it did
Yeah,
that.
virus goes through.
So log that one away for later.
And it's been noted as a bug, and it's still not patched. You make us a hero who's supposed to be anti-dive, and they're not anti-dive.
I think you should just give Sombra stupid loud footsteps, like elephant running.
She's uncomfortably loud.
You can't see her, but you can sure hear her coming. And then I think life would be better. I think that change alone, just audibly, would make the hero better.
Just the
You see, but then,
is stuck on.
Yes.
That would be the kind of person.
It's like a siren. You can just hear it.
You're no longer going to hear callouts for Sombra. It's going to be, yo, submarine's coming.
Seriously. Train's about to hit the station. I think that change would be good.
Do we think that there are some tanks that would need to get are going to need a fundamental redesign in 5v5.
Let me make a
I'm talking.
list.
I'm talking about the hard.
We need
So
this.
any of the old tanks, right, are eventually going to need some sort of fundamental rework. At some point, like deep fundamental, there's not many left right now. Reinhardt being like one that probably he'll eventually need a rework. Sigma will definitely eventually need a rework, just as
He's
the
actually
game
good
continues.
right now.
He's
believe it or
good
not.
now, but like these characters, they're as more characters are going to get added to the game, because that's how you kind of continue to procure interest in the game, is just adding more characters. And I think that adding more characters is actually very healthy for any game that is MOBA at its core. That those characters will eventually need to be changed because their kits will just become so completely outdated. They're already kind of in an odd spot because of the changes to what is it, 5v5.
The big ones that I'm thinking of are Diva Zarya interactions are a problem. Hogs,
Zarya needs a rework. Point blank, period.
I think the
Mhm.
issue is her having a beam and having bubbles. If you split them up, I think it's less of a problem. It's just having both of them.
My problem with Zarya is a tricky one because I wish she was more. Here's the character you get. It doesn't matter what your charge is at. This is just what she does. I would still be okay with bubbles and things like that if it didn't matter. Let's say charge is set at base 50. And you're no longer getting charged if they're hitting bubbles or hitting a shield or whatever the rework is. The problem is with Zarya is that I think any rework starts targeting her identity as a character. Which I think Overwatch is going to have a big problem with. Because I think a problem that they're running into is that with a lot of these reworks, they don't want to change the identity of the characters and what they do. Bastion got a rework, but he still has his identity of being in that stupid form with the minigun that just goes burr. Sombra can still hack and goes invisible. They didn't change that about her. Who else has had major...
Let's talk about this real quick. No. Let's talk about this real quick. The freaking Hog rework.
What did they do? Nothing.
You know what they said? They were working on that for like a year?
Right. And they added a little trap.
They added a little
How his
trap
healing worked.
and right before that they were like, "Hey, we're going to patch out his one-shot combo cuz we think it's kind of broken." And then like half a season later they're like, "Here's a trap. Oh, look at that. You got a one-shot combo back. Oh, that's cute."
And then did nothing about it.
And then have continued to do nothing about it.
They don't know any better.
I still don't think Hook is a bad ability.
No.
Being able to displace someone out of their team and bring them into the fray of your team is incredibly powerful, and I think a great tank ability. I think it's more... I think it's a tank ability. The problem is that he doesn't need his team around him.
Nope.
He can just kill you. That's insane.
You feel the built-up resentment. It's bubbling.
Hog is one I don't understand because I think his rework could have kept his full identity with making changes that were healthier for the game, and they didn't. This is why devs are like, "Hey, we've been balancing. Why don't you have more faith in us?" Because Hog exists. That is the only reason I need right now. You had a year. You worked on it for a year, and he got worse, arguably.
You and I played a game last week.
Oh, we've played a lot of games.
We played a lot of games, but we played a game on Rialto. And we were struggling. I was playing tank, you were playing support. And eventually I said, you know what? The solution here is Hog. I know that. You knew that. I don't play Hog. I don't play him because I think he's just a shit hero to play. I also don't think he's fun. But I looked at the game and said, Hog's the hero. The fact that I could do anything in that game after we went and checked afterward, I think I have like 3 hours on him total, including things like mystery heroes. The fact that I could do anything on that hero and still make progress in the game is actually ludicrous. Because all I needed to do was sit there and hold right click. And then when I was like, cool, my health's high, guess I'll throw out Hook. Oh, they're gone now. I'll sit here and breathe again.
I don't know. And then on the other topic of reworks, this might be a support hero opinion. Doomfist needs a rework, or at least a heavy balance change.
I'm inclined to agree. He's a rough one. He's a really rough one because he is one that I do think could lose his identity.
Yeah.
Take away his power punch, number one. You can still block. Take away the power punch. Because I don't know about you, but I know Drazil can agree with me here. There's nothing like your soldier charging up a power punch, him slamming into the back line, and then all of a sudden I'm pressed up against a wall getting two-shot. He's facing the same problems Hog is right now, in my opinion. He's just hypermobile.
I was going to say, I think his mobility is the issue. So I think you need to get rid of his E or rework it. Maybe rather than... so he used to have uppercut and slam.
Oh, I forgot about uppercut.
Maybe we need to get rid of... And they combined the two when Overwatch 2 came out. Maybe we just need to get rid of slam, and it just needs to be uppercut.
Yeah.
Now you have a tank who has some vertical mobility, but has to be a lot more considerate about how he's going to engage.
I actually quite enjoy Mirror Watch Doomfist. We should try that one out.
That was an interesting one.
Give him a shield. I'm okay with them all having shields now. I hated double shield. Fuck that meta. There's only one of them now.
It's a lot different when there's only one.
I don't know.
If everyone has shields, then nobody has shields.
And I think this is also...
Who can break the shield faster?
Yeah.
I think one of the last things I really want to bring up is when Overwatch 2 was announced and they said... Or not when it was announced, when they started doing the brief wrap-up where they started going into the betas. One of the things they said was, hey, tanks are going to have CC. Some sports are going to have CC. No one else is going to have CC. Because crowd control is oppressive. And it was a big issue in Overwatch 1. May freeze? Nobody liked May freeze, unless you played May.
Bring back Flashbang.
One of the few DPSs that I actually played, but yeah.
Right?
Eyes of the Sun.
When I was just a tank main, even I could go through and have fun with May.
Yep. Exactly.
It's been a long day. Fuck it, I'll play some May and ruin some people's days.
And when the game came out, they did remove most of the DPS stuns. But as time has come on, we've seen more and more CC come back. Look at Venture. Venture's got 3 CC abilities.
I think you're starting to get into the discussion of what is considered CC.
Anything that moves your hero. Like, actually physically moves your hero.
So it doesn't come to a complete stop. So you would consider soft CC. Because then you get into Cassidy. Cassidy has hinders. I would call that CC.
Yep.
Because I can stop tank charges.
How about this?
I think what they were...
From moving in the direction you intended.
Sure. Because I don't think Venture CC is oppressive. I think she does too much damage. This is why I don't play tank. Fix the game first. I don't know.
Roll Tide.
I've had a Venture
God
just push
bless.
me in the corner, and then I have a Lucio come and boop me. And it's like, cool. I've just spent the last 3 seconds, literally, unable to move.
Take it all out then. Fuck it.
I need that somewhere. I need a poster with that. Just fix it.
I think we've kind of said most of the things we probably want to say.
DPS queues are down. We love that.
Yeah.
Actually, that is one thing to bring up.
Oh my God, it was
DPS queues in Overwatch 1 were a problem. And I really don't think they'd get fixed if we went back to 5v5.
Nope.
I
I'll
still
admit that.
remember coming home from classes and being like, I want to play a couple games of some nice Overwatch by myself to decompress for the day. And then I'd sit in a 25-minute queue.
Yeah.
And I'd get a game and I'd get rolled. And then it'd be like, oh, it's bedtime.
Yeah, I would use it to do homework. So
Right.
I'd be stuck in queue, and I'm like, okay, once they put me in the game, I'll take a break.
Right. Because you would actually see, I
Right.
still try to do that now, but it doesn't work like that anymore.
No, you don't get nearly as much time. That's the real problem. Queues are too short. They need to give us more time to think about our choices.
And I do think it says a lot that so it kind of flip-flops now, but you can actually if you look at whatever the whatever it gives you extra battle pass XP for,
Yeah.
that's whatever
Yeah.
role is the shortest queue time. And it flip-flops now between support and tank.
Should say something.
I was gonna say queue times are actually pretty ridiculous right now at like the upper levels, like the 4.5 plus, but the lower levels,
of
the
us.
queue times have been better.
None of us.
Well, again, I hear it from my students. Like that's
Yeah, I was watching a YouTuber by the name of Warren. He's a smaller. He's getting bigger, but
Not
DPS
the main man
main.
himself.
What?
Not the main man himself.
Not the main man. I'm not bringing up Flats today. I'm bringing up Warren. I think he's a DPS player, primarily plays Ashe. He made a video the other day where he was playing open queue. He's a top 500 open queue player, technically by his rank. The problem is the queues that you sit in for open queue, there's nobody playing open queue at a top 500 level. Trying to get games like that is insane. This is him talking about another streamer, but he even said that there was a streamer that would have two PCs running. One of them would give you an open queue game, and then he would just put that queue up, and it would sit for hours while it was looking for a game. And then he'd play actual roll queue on his other computer while he was waiting for the open queue game. I don't really understand the logistics on that, so I'm getting that source from somebody else, but like to make the point about how long queues can get up there for certain modes.
I mean, so a lot of us watch Flats and a lot of us watch CarQ. They posted a video where they waited for what, like 2 hours?
Yeah.
And that's for roll queue.
But I mean, Paradox might have a better take on this than I do. When you get up to that upper echelon of the game, there's less players.
Yeah.
You're at the mercy of who else is on.
You see longer queue times in League of Legends in any games when you get to those upper levels, but at the same time, like Overwatch still has the longest. Like it is longer than Valorant and League of Legends comparatively.
And in
By a
fairness to the
significant amount.
developers, they have said this is an issue. We know it's an issue. We are working on it.
Right.
It's a shame.
Well, and it's like, what do you do about that other than expand the ranks that can play together? Like,
I mean, historically, you've
Which
had
they
top
did.
500 players getting people sometimes in Diamond, which
that's been since Overwatch 2, though.
That's been too wide, but they are going to have to start. At least for those super high levels, they're going to have to start reaching down. Not unless you want to play against the same 4 people all the time.
Make some friends.
What are those? Before we totally wrap this up, I didn't want to bring this up because I've thought of it and I've come across other people who have thought about it. What would we think about a 2-3-3 format? So 2 tanks, 3 DPS, 3 supports.
No.
Okay,
Logistically,
done.
well, one, I'm not going to steal Paradox's thunder because I'm sure that business-wise, logistically, that is a nightmare to think
Now,
about.
let me just get 16 freaking computers at a LAN center. Like, that's just silly.
Come on, you're just rolling in the money.
What's the reason? Why? Just to have 2 tanks back?
Not just to have 2 tanks back, but to continue having this DPS being impactful.
Or playing Apex at that point. Just drop them all on the map at different points and have them rush towards the middle. It's just deathmatch.
Yeah, become who's more coordinated. You'd have a ball of heroes that move forward and the earth shakes.
Can you imagine having I mean, I know it's only one more person, but now you're adding a whole nother person to, if you're playing in a coordinated team, a voice call to play a coordinated video game. That you're adding cooks to the kitchen. I think that sounds terrible.
Let's
Yeah.
not pretend that we don't sit in a call with like 15 people playing.
And then
through
I get
the game.
overstimulated and I leave.
It's far too much. No, I understand that.
I go, hey, who's playing Overwatch? I'm booting us because we're leaving. Because the brain is starting to yell and it's going to start getting vocal here because I can't think.
I will say the older maps were specifically designed for 6v6, and then they didn't update them to 5v5. So that has been a continuous problem with just the way that it is now.
Which
Well,
is
you
so
would-
funny because I think the new maps are trash.
Well, regardless. So you would need to update the maps pretty heavily to then change it to, to make it an 8v8 format. But definitely I've said this before on like an older podcast. Like, I think you would rather take the number of players away and make the maps smaller and focus more on, like, I've said 3v3, one tank, one DPS, and one support, but you beef the shit out of them, right? Like, you start going like a 3 ability territory, potentially 4 ability territory, right? Like 3 plus an ultimate, or even like, whatever you want to do. And you really, really beef the shit out of those characters. And you make it like, that's how you make it kind of fun to play, where each one of those characters just feels super, super impactful. Imagine like Reinhardt, but, he's got Fire Strike, he's got his shield, he's got his hammer, he's got his slam, and I don't know, he's also got like Arissa's javelin. You know what I mean? And really, really beef it up that way. I think that's the ultimate solution, but that's just me.
I think the game would lose its identity.
You could make the argument that it would like turn into more of an Apex, but because Apex is still a battle royale and this is still like MOBA FPS, it makes that difference. Like, they clearly wanted to make it more MOBA by making it more 5v5, but the number of roles that are available to the play, like the number of roles just don't add up to allow you to do that. You realistically need 5 unique roles in the game to make it the game they want it to be.
Sure.
Which I think we've already had the discussion about.
Right.
I am
You
a
can't really
big
relax.
believer in that they should split up DPS heroes and support heroes and make it 5 roles.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer.
Really, I thought we had the discussion that we shouldn't do that. Let's talk
No,
about that real
I
quick.
am a big believer that there should be 5 roles. I think that would bring more uniformity to the game. I think that would cut down on bad team compositions. I think it could help with balance because now you're forcing certain team compositions to an extent where you're going to have a main healer and you're going to have a flex healer.
I feel like it would also limit you. You'd be forced down a path. You have to play the game a certain way now.
Well, I
Is the
don't
biggest
think
issue.
so, because you could still continue to play it the way that you're playing, but you wouldn't be able to run a Mercy Lucio. You'd be forced into something like a Mercy Ana.
Sure.
I think it would hurt the DPS a little bit more. I don't even know how you'd split them up. I know that once upon a time it was offense and defense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you could comfortably classify them like that anymore.
Hit scan and other.
Hit scan. I don't even know if you could hit scan and everyone else. I think you could maybe group them based on utility versus damage output.
Hit scan and other. That's what I said.
No, because
I got a good one. So for DPS heroes, you could have heroes that can kill you in less than 1 second, and heroes that require more than a second to do so.
I mean, like, if you wanted to like my thought on like utility versus non-utility, your non-utility would be your Cassidy's, your soldiers, your Ashe, so hit scan. Your Junkrat, your
And then,
Hanzo,
everyone
your
else.
I would put Venture in there. I don't know. I might put Venture in utility. I would put May in utility. I'd put Sombra in utility. I would put Tracer in utility. Maybe not. I don't know. I think I have to sit down longer with that one. With the DPS, I haven't thought that one through yet. I think the supports are easy because there's already a specific classification of main and flex.
You would then need to rework most of the tanks to actually play like the tank role, though. In that instance,
It's what I said earlier. Yeah, correct.
that's like but you would like Zarya literally could no longer be a tank. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way to actually rework Zarya to keep the identity of I have shield that you don't want to hit me at, and then like I have beam. You know what I mean? Maybe keeping
Let
her
them hit the
grav.
shield.
Well,
Don't let it impact the amount of power you have. You could still have beam. You could still have grav. You could still have things like that, but don't make it, oh shit, Hanzo just storm arrowed into 2 of her bubbles and we're fucked.
Hitty charge, go burr.
Right, you're done. She rounds the corner in Eichenwald and the game is over. You are done. She is walking forward and nothing is stopping her.
I think that would actually, maybe we should do that on a future one, is come up with some.
Just rework all the tanks.
No, just come up with a potential, like, hey, we're gonna try and reorganize the heroes into these 5 categories. Maybe it's a good idea for a future episode.
Because I don't think it would impact how you play the game, because it would continue to play as it is now. You would just avoid stupid ass team comps that are not advantageous. And maybe this is also a problem for medal ranks more than it is for top 500. Top 500 players are either very, very good at one player or one character, or they understand the meta, or they understand how to make good team compositions when they're playing. It doesn't matter how many times you tell the 2 supports in gold that Mercy Lucio just isn't going to work. And it's not because you guys are amping heals 100 and you guys have the top heals in the lobby. That doesn't matter. It's not the most advantageous way to be playing the game, and they don't care.
Because their BAP is outputting more damage than DPS.
Look. I think it would be healthy. League does it.
I was gonna say League has always had those characters like Riven and Fiora and Master Yi that, you know, if you really know how to play them and your opponent doesn't know how to counter them, then they're gonna take away and they're gonna run away with the lobby. The problem there is that there's so many characters in the game that it's only every once in a while that you're gonna see like a Yi or, you know, some of these more toxic characters. And with Overwatch, there's just so few characters comparatively. So makes it far more common to see the problematic characters. And, you know, you're always going to see kind of the same like 15 to 20 characters in League that are meta, rather than in Overwatch where you're going to see like 10 characters. But that's just because, I think the roster is too small, personally.
Well, that's been an issue for a long time, and
And we're finally getting heroes, which
slowly getting.
to be perfectly honest, the only character that's out right now that I think is perfectly okay for the health of the game is Melga.
That's a hot take.
I mean, that's just ironic considering his release.
Right. No, he was awful at release. I think where he is now is fine. I don't think he's oppressive. I think he's useful. I wouldn't. The whole setting people on fire thing is like a little bit to me, but everything else he does, I think, is fine. I think Junker Queen's
I need to
fine.
get you to play more tank matches, because man, I feel like every time I'm gonna go play Maui. You know what happens? Instantly,
Tell
the
me.
enemy support locks Ana. Instantly.
Well, that's always been a problem for tank, though.
Yes, but unlike every other tank, Mauga doesn't have a way to stop that.
The answer in Overwatch 2 is, I think, easy, but this is also not good for the health of the game. You have a Kiri.
Which is a whole nother issue.
I would say it's a problem, yes, if Kiri didn't exist, but she does.
I think Kiri Suzu where it is also problematic, but again, good conversation for another time.
Yeah, there's a very easy solution. All of it, all encompassing.
Hit the play button. All right,
Uninstall the
go.
game.
Thank you.
Just uninstall. It's not worth it. Leave. Find another game. You'll be happier.
No, I've been playing Apex. I haven't been happier. Thank you.
Well,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
because you chose Apex.
Come to the
You
dark
know-
side. Play League.
Oh.
I
Real.
actually,
Yeah, I
I'm
was
not
about
gonna
to say,
lie.
Real.
Knox, when's the last time you played League?
It's been months, but I saw a YouTube video today, and I was like, should I open that game?
5v5
I
ARAMs with your
truly
friends.
believe
That's
Oh,
the way.
Yeah.
5v5
Overwatch.
ARAMs with your friends.
should be gone. But I know League is worse
Nah.
by miles.
No.
I hate Overwatch, but I know League is worse.
Maybe we'll have to get the
There's
therapist
no-
back on here to discuss more League stuff.
I can't even talk about League. I have not played League. We did the episode where we talked about all the big changes for that one season, and then I didn't play the game. I still have not played those changes.
Oh, everyone's been busy. That's probably actually a good segue. Let's wrap up our conversation and do our last segment. So this is called The Real World, where we discuss things that are going on in our lives that may be related to video games, but maybe not. They might be books we're reading, movies we're watching, music we're listening to, things going on in our life generally. Bandito, what do you got?
So, I've hit the time of year where I don't really know what I want to play. I'm kind of everywhere. So, for the past 2 weeks, I have been going through and binging a game at a time to see how long it would take. I started with, I think it was Fallout 4, and I completed that in about 2 days, 3 days. Then Spider-Man 2, which I 100%ed all achievements. It was less than a week. 3 days, 4 days. And then The Last of Us. I played the remastered of the first one. And that was even less. That was like 2 days. So I'm running out of games. I'm knocking them down one at a time.
What's it like to have that free time?
Yeah,
Must
right.
be nice.
It's pretty
Good
nice.
God.
That's pretty wonderful. But you get in a zone and you want to finish the
I get it.
story. You don't stop.
Sorry, I
The
was when I was
single-player
playing
games
Fallen
are like
Order.
Pretty wonderful. Oh, I did start Jedi Survivor. Finally.
I need my computer to stop having an aneurysm, and then I'll play it.
I also want to play it, and I know once the three of us finish it, I would like to do an episode on it. Drazil, what do you got going on?
I have some fun life things going on. One of them is good news, one of them is bad news. They are unrelated. I'll start with the bad news. So everyone knows I have 2 cats. Everyone knows I am very allergic to my 2 cats. And I've started pursuing allergy shots. My consultation is next week. I'm going to get poked like a pincushion, but I cannot take my allergy medication leading up to this appointment. So this next week is going to be real fun for me. If you saw me off in the corner blowing my nose, that's what I was doing, because it's starting already, because I'm already not on it. But the good news, I have picked up a book, which I don't do often. It is the Lord, our Savior, Mr. King. It is a cat. I'm about 20 pages into it, but I've been enjoying it so far. And that's what I've got going on for me right now. Next.
What do you got, Paradox?
Paradox.
Yeah. Are you ready to get poked there? I know you and Needles don't usually get along either. So good luck with that.
It's only when they're drawing blood. If they're not drawing blood, I'm fine.
Fair enough.
So,
But yeah, I had a big work event that I had to go to. I brought 70 people to Texas. That was so frustrating. Just bringing 70 people between the ages of 18 and 26 and everybody is very lucky they made it out of the weekend without getting punched in the face. At least one person. I'm very proud of myself on that part.
You're not supposed to admit that.
No. I
Nah.
can fully admit that because I had some
Absolutely.
of these people that like, how did you make it to 18? Like, you're just asking those questions, right? You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I hate that I do.
I also work with college students.
Yeah. Yep. It's how did you make it this far? Please, like, one of them complaining about per diem, even though I literally know that they like lost their per diem money in poker. So then they're like, I can't eat now, right? Anyways, but my guys, they finished quite well. They got second and third in Super Smash Brothers because we brought 2 teams there. They got third and fifth in Valorant, third and fifth in Overwatch, and they also got third in Rocket League. So
Nice.
very, very well done. I wish we could have taken away a dub, but it is what it is.
Oh, that's a good point. My Overwatch team made it to the finals, made it to that whole big thing. Lost in the first round.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah, it was brutal.
Wait, what's your team?
The Goobers.
Oh.
It was an elected name that I was told I had no say in. So that's what we are.
Nice.
Really living up to that name, huh?
Oh yeah.
They're trying their best. Somehow
living their
they're
best
still
life.
having fun while playing. It couldn't be me.
Knox, what do you got?
I'm not going to talk about books. I have decided that this summer I am going on my Hot Girl concert tour series, in which I'm going to 4 concerts this summer. And none of them are like the last. It's going to be such an eclectic summer for music. I am first in July going to see Noah Khan, who is one of my all-time favorites. I cannot wait. Tickets were so expensive. Me and my friend are going to go sit in the grass in the back, and we're going to have a grand old time. It's going to be phenomenal. If you don't know Noah Khan, you probably know one of his songs. He's all over TikTok. Very good. Very chill. Good vibes. The second concert I'm going to was just added. All Time Low is going on their 20th anniversary tour. The last time I saw All Time Low, I was in high school. I was 16 years old, and I caught a guitar pick. And I'm going to the exact same venue to see them again. They're playing all their hits. I'm so fucking excited. Me and my boyfriend are going to that one. He took off work. It's going to be great. Super stoked. The third concert. What?
Dear Maria, count me in.
It's going to be so lit, dude. I'm so excited. It's also never, my boyfriend, good God, has never seen me at a pit concert before. So this is going to be a new experience for us as a couple to navigate standing room only, in which I will get to the front. So this will be really, really fun. The third concert I'm going to, I don't technically have tickets for yet. We're still coordinating how we're paying for 7 of us to get tickets at the same time. So it's a nightmare sometimes is buying tickets for a large group. I'm going to go see Pitbull and T-Pain.
My God.
I'm going to go see Mr. Worldwide in the flesh.
305. My God. Yeah, he came to a Walmart Supercenter near us because apparently they do concerts, by the way. In case you didn't know, that's a thing, apparently. He looks like he is on all of the drugs.
I'm so excited.
At all times. It's phenomenal. I have never been in a place that had the same energy.
We're getting GA bleacher tickets. So this concert's happening at a ballpark, at a MLB baseball stadium. So stage goes out in center field, and they use the seating around home plate as concert seating, and then they put seats on the ground. So we're going to be up in like the 300 levels. We're not going to see a lick of him, but we're going to hear all of the glory that it is Mr. Worldwide.
Mr. 305.
Mr. 305. And T-Pain. Can you believe? Anyway, 4th concert is my man, Young Gravy. He is coming back again. He is touring again. My Tall Glass of Water. I cannot wait. Me and 2 of my friends who are also obsessed with him are going in September. It's on a Thursday night. I'm going to hate myself on that Friday, but it's not going to matter.
Oh,
because I'm
Hosier's going on tour.
Hosier is going on tour, and those tickets are out of my price range because I did check on that one too. Because fun fact, nosebleeds for Hosier are like $500. So
Oof.
we're skipping that one. My friends are going. I'm really, really upset that they got in on pre-sale and I didn't know that they were planning on going. Friends from college, so like we were in different places deciding these things. But gonna miss Hosier, but I'm gonna hit 4 really awesome concerts this summer, and I am stoked. Zach.
I know Paradox has mentioned it a couple times on when he's been on, but I have this self-imposed challenge that I've been trying to do in Pokemon Legends Arceus. So once you beat the game and you've done all the story stuff and gone through a lot of it, there is a challenge called the Path of Solitude. There is one for every single Pokemon in the Pokedex. So that's every single evolution in the entire line. And all it is it's one fight, it's a 1v1, and all you have to do is win. However, they're all disadvantaged. I decided, man, it'd be really, really cool if I went and did that with just shiny Pokemon. So the base rates for finding a shiny, which is just a cosmetic change, it's just a different color, is 1 in 4,096. I finally freaking found my Wormadam last night. So now I have 204 of the 224 that I need in order to complete this challenge. And I'm slowly working my way through trying to find the last of them. the one, all the ones I've had left have been awful, and I've just accepted the fact that this is going to take a long time.
Yeah, I was gonna
Fuck
say, speaking of
that.
free time.
Yeah, right. You were judging me on mine. Fuck that. I'll
So-
play my 4 or 5 solo player games while you do that. Hell, I'm
The
gone.
Wormadam was awful because you had to go find the shaking trees
Oof.
and
There's
knock it out
one
and hope
tree
that it was
that
shiny.
has Wormadam. Yeah.
No, the Wormadam's pretty common, but the issue is that Wormadam is only female.
Oh yeah.
So I think I caught like 5 shiny Motham. And I was like, just give me one. Just one female. That's all I want. So I think it's still going to take a long time. I meant to pull up my Switch and work on it while we were doing things, but earlier today.
Shenanigans.
Yeah, so the last ones I have left have to do with the space-time distortions, and it's like the game rolls like every 5 minutes, and it's like, maybe we'll spawn one, maybe we won't. But if one spawns, then you have to wait another 5 minutes, and then you get 3 encounters.
No thanks.
Yeah, same
Yeah.
shit still applies.
It's one
Yeah.
of these things
Yeah.
that like it takes way more time than it's really worth, but it'll be really cool if I can be like, I did it.
You can hold that badge to yourself.
Bandito, it's his honor run.
It is
You
my honor
know,
run.
It's his honor run.
No, because he doesn't get an achievement out of it. And no gold dice.
Yeah, we do have gold dice.
We do have gold dice. Fuck you.
This is just for him to, he can pin it on his fridge when he's done.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
have fun with that.
Technically, I will get one thing out of it. So I pay for Pokemon Bank. So all those Pokemon that are shinies, I can move forward and bring them into my
Word.
future games.
Oh, okay. That's kind of cool.
That's fair.
If-
So then you have all
I'll
of them.
fuck with that.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. That's a little bit more justified than just doing it because fuck it.
All the ones that are available. There are some Pokemon in there that are shiny locked. You can't get a
Yeah,
shiny.
sure. You win
Sorry.
some, you lose some.
God can't be shiny in this one. If you want to do that, you got to go into BDSP and good luck.
That attitude you can't.
Anyway, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you everyone for joining us. We hope you enjoyed our discussion today. We release these episodes weekly, but if that's not often enough for you, come join us on our Discord server. We are around probably too often.
Far too often.
If you think there's some insight that we didn't offer that you want to offer, or there's something that you want to hear, or think we should be saying for people to hear, or think we just sound like a cool group of people, go click that link down in the doobly-doo. Drazil, Bandito, Paradox, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. Really, really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone at home. Bye.
Bye.
Paradox, you can get that second fucking hand up. I've resigned to the fact that Zach never will, but everybody else shall.
You know what I'll do with this one time just so I can be like, hey, look at my
Yay, we did it!
I'll take it. I'll take it.